Hi folks, congratulations, you've made it all the way to the end and the last video. Here I'm going to talk a little bit about safe spaces and brave spaces and what that might mean for your school. And I'm also going to end with a 30-second sermon and a short political rant. So you can look forward to that. You know, for years I just described dialogue as a safe space. But now, more often, I refer to it as a brave space. So I'd like to share what I'm learning about those terms. But, whatever you call it, let me first remind you that it is a myth that anyone and everyone is welcome in dialogue. To participate in dialogue, we have to agree to these shared guidelines and embrace these values that are at the heart of the experience. So, trolls are not welcome. The church militant and the Proud Boys are not welcome in dialogue, whether you call it brave or safe or something else. I adopted the term brave spaces after reading the work of a couple of scholars named Brian Areo and Christy Clemens. And they persuaded me that dialogue, at least as it often happens in my classroom and public forums, is a space that I just can't guarantee is going to be safe or make it safe, because dialogue requires a certain degree of vulnerability. And I may get hurt. Microaggressions, for example, will happen in dialogue, and we will have to work through it. I might get bruised. We have a presumption of confidentiality in dialogue, but I can't guarantee that someone isn't going to run out of the room afterwards and shoot their mouth off. It takes a lot of bravery, this dialogue. If you, the assault on the Capitol and the impeachment of the president, this calls for getting a group of students together to sit in a circle and talk. And when they do, they're going to have to be brave. That's a brave space. At the same time, I truly value safe spaces, and I think that they are so important. I just want to be a little bit more specific and narrow in how we talk about what is a safe space. So here I'm drawing on a paper from Diana Ollie, and she says that this term safe space actually dates to the LGBTQIA movement way back before we had all those letters in regular use, around the time of Stonewall, where a safe space meant in community organizing, this is a space where I can go to be safe. A safe space is a place for folks with marginalized identities and their closest allies. It is not a public space. And safe places play a really key role in social movement building. A safe place is a place for consciousness raising. If you go back to the 1970s and the feminist movement, consciousness raising circles, I looked at the guidelines for those, and they look remarkably like the way that we have talked about dialogue. One big difference: no men allowed. That was a safe space. And we need safe spaces on the road to social change. When I think about my campus, I'd like to think that my office is a safe space. Certainly got the rainbow sticker on the door that says it is. Our Unity and Diversity Center, when students gather there, I think that's a safe space. But the dialogues that happen in my classroom, that's a brave space. And as much as they might like it to be different when campus ministry hosts a public event, That's a brave space. And I think a healthy campus needs a good mix of brave spaces and safe spaces for dialogue. If if we were in person right now, I'd probably hand out a drawing of your building and ask you to kind of mark where are the brave spaces and where are the safe spaces. Some of these may be programmed by faculty or student activities. Some of them may just spring up organically. You need both. Well, I think we're now drawing to the end here, and I promised you a 30-second sermon and a short political rant. So let me just find my notes for the sermon. Aha, here we go. If you walk away with the impression that genuine dialogue is difficult and rare, I think that's the point. It's rare but not impossible, and it requires planning with some care and some vulnerability and an abiding commitment, and ultimately, I think, an encounter with grace. Grace is when we encounter the something more of life. Grace is when the sum is more than its parts. In theological language, grace is when God helps us do something that we couldn't do all on our own. In dialogue, the human connection that happens there, for me, that's also divine, and it's a moment of grace. That's why, for me, dialogue is also a spiritual practice. That's it. That's actually the whole sermon, in case you were, getting a little bit nervous there. Now for the political rant. And I need to pull out my stump speech for this. One answer to our fractious political climate, the lies and the vitriol, is to say that we need more civil discourse. And to me, perhaps for many, that means better deliberation in the public sphere. Good people exchanging good arguments with mutual respect. We need to teach 21st century skills for evaluating evidence and making arguments. We need fair-minded citizen scholars for a healthy exchange of ideas. And then, when someone asks about a controversial issue, they'll get past parroting what their parents say or repeating the latest meme on Twitter. We need to stop the name-calling and abide by the rules for civil debate, a civil discussion. A robust deliberative democracy requires decorum. And this is all true. To be clear, I'm in favor of civil debate and civil discussion. But there is also another path to better public discourse. It's a higher bar, and it's a space that is as much private as it is public. We also need people with the emotional intelligence, empathy, and listening skills for genuine dialogue. We need people who will invest time and energy in just understanding each other and leave solving the problems for another day. We need spaces where it's okay to question my assumptions and, discover that I'm not actually sure what I think. We need to learn, and I truly hope that our students learn, that when those absolutely opposing worldviews collide, there can indeed be a loosening. and that loosening can transform our culture. I mean, long story short, and I hope you'll agree, we need more people who will say, I'm not looking for a debate right now. I'd like to have a dialogue. Well, folks, that's it. We've reached the end. You know, I think that at Brebeuf, you are particularly well positioned to prepare students not only for civil discussion and debate, but also for genuine dialogue. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to share these thoughts with you, and I look forward to seeing many of you in person before too long. In the meantime, be brave.